And good evening and welcome to another edition of Life as People, number 54. And tonight well, I'm really pleased to be having kind of the return date of Ernest, because a few weeks ago I went and I braved him on his show, and I took the firing coals of his excellent show, and part of his return is that he's back on this show. So without me going any further, how are we doing tonight, Ernest? You all right?
Yeah, no, we're good. Well, it's not tonight. It's still tomorrow, here in Arizona. We're at 11 o'clock. But what time is it there? You're probably, later.
Yeah, seven o'clock in the evening. So, Bob, let's kick this off. I mean, I think the sort of the best place I would like to, obviously now after doing your show, I kind of know you a bit, and we've got a bit of a repertoire going. But for myself and people who are going to be listening to this, it's sort of like, tell me, where did your journey on this to begin? Because obviously you're very staunch. I mean, just to let people know, the Freedom Phoenix is huge, great big operation that's going on in America, and it's doing wonderful things, and I recommend to anybody to go and check it out. But obviously you just didn't appear in Freedom's Phoenix, so Ernest. So tell me, where did it all begin with you? How did this journey start from where to where you are now?
Wow. A lot of people are born libertarian. They're just kind of contrarian to whatever. But I was just searching for the truth. In 1988, my father manufactured a camping trailer for motorcycles called the Alcan Traveler, and he was getting a lot of, thank you, baby. He was getting a lot of orders from Europe, because that's right when they started taking down the travel restrictions. You didn't need a passport to go from Portugal to Spain to France to Germany, kind of thing. And so we got a lot of requests for my father's camping trailer, because touring the small cobbled streets of the villages in Europe kind of thing was really ideal for touring motorcycles. And if you could bring your camper with you, a very light fiberglass and aircraft aluminum thing, it was like $3,500 for this thing back in '88. So it was, top of the line. And there was a lot of interest for it. And at the time in the '88 campaign, it was, we got to save America by exporting, and it was all over the news and everything, like, Dad, we got to save America. You got all these orders, and he was doing what he could to fulfill orders here in the U.S., but he hit some magazines that went international and they wanted it. So I said, I didn't want to work for my father because he's my father. So, I just said, look, I'll just help you, America. I just had my fourth kid and so on, or we're pregnant with our fourth kid. And I'm going, let me go ahead and see what I can do. And I started researching, which port to go in. Okay, we'll have the sea container full of whatever, and we go into, the Netherlands. Do we go into Italy? Do we go to Spain? I mean, where do we go? And as I was doing the research, I came across the Uruguay round of the GATT Treaty, and we had the Omnibus Trade Competitiveness Act of '88 and all this, and I read it, and I'm going, wow, this is what they were telling me in junior high a decade before what fascism was. So I started, doing some more research and finding, I'm going, oh, I get it. Government's just a gang with a flag, and you get a globe that has all these, colors of different countries and everything. I go, it's like gang colors, So I'm going, okay. So as I started scratching the surface, I could see that we were going headlong into a fascist regime here. And my wife and I remember when it was between our birthdays in late March in '89. And I'm like, wow, we need to, by the time our children are our age, which was late 20s at the time, I'm going, it's going to get really bad. So baby, if you just let me go do battle with the beast and learn recipes, for beans, like 16 recipes at least, or something like that for beans and rice, then I go, we can take this on, give me a decade. By the time it hit 2000, I go to my wife and I said, all right, I did. And she's like, no, you can keep going, because by then we were having an impact. And we had a pizza restaurant at the time then, and we sold that. And I had a lot of support. I'd run for office as a libertarian for Congress and Senate and local offices, Secretary of State and all this stuff, and just to use it as an educational platform for what was coming. And then we started doing freedom summits in 2001, just 3 weeks after 9/11. Well, by the time we started doing that, we were just warning our friends and family of what was coming. And we had a lot of great speakers at our freedom summits over the years. And one of those had been Dr. Paul. He's spoken at 3 of them. And we've had, the big names, Lou Rockwell and Peter Schiff, and, it just goes on and on and on. And a lot of them you may recognize. But it was just to warn our friends and family and neighbors of what we thought was coming. When 9/11 hit and our first summit was 3 weeks later, it's like, yep, we knew that they were going to have a big giant piles of legislation that they were going to throw a name on, patriotic, and sure as heck they named it the Patriot Act, and and all the other stuff, and everything that we've been warning about, and certainly what Dr. Paul had been saying, came to pass. Well, in '96, we had already made the decision that we were going to have a Freedom's Phoenix. We even had the artwork and the logo and the idea in our heads, but they didn't have video. It had hit the internet yet. So I'm going, when video hits, we're all over it. So in September of '05 was our first postings when we opened up Freedom's Phoenix, and we've been doing that ever since. Within a year or two after that, it was January of '07 that Ron Paul announced he kind of sort of was thinking about creating a blue ribbon panel to explore he might run. And I'm going, I already know where this goes. So that's where the Ron Paul Revolution logo came from. I had created that in '06 for a campaign that I had here, and everybody loved that logo. They wanted it tattooed on their forehead, So I'm going, okay, so it's a Ron Paul Revolution, and we just started making signs and distributing them to all our friends around the country, asking them to make video. Well, they started sending that back, just tapes to it. Just send us the tape, we'll take care of it. And we started putting it up, and boom, it just exploded. Because as activists, young activists in the early '90s and so on, this is what we were waiting for. So we waited 15 years, for an opportunity to do. Now, we had done a lot of things here in Arizona and gotten a lot of national attention and so on before and since then, but it was just an understanding of the power of the internet. Well, one of the things that I keep, and I'm glad we're going to talk about it today, that I kept hammering on, I'm going, look, they're going to start consolidating opinion and control over opinion. Google buys YouTube, and Twitter gets bought up by, it's just on and on and on and on. It keeps consolidating down to where, you're not allowed to have that opinion. So I had been screaming this for years, and it was a year and a half ago at the Texas Bitcoin Conference that Rafael Rodriguez, said, you know what? You need to talk to David Irvine. He sounds just like you. And after he and I had talked and I found out about MadeSafe, I'm going, oh, here we go. And then, but there was one other little thing. It was like, well, you still had to go through an ISP. You had to, have your Cox, Verizon, AT&T, and NSA surveillance before you even got on to whatever network. Well, then here comes OuterNet, CubeSats. Heck, you can even, I just had some friends send me an article about ham radio using CubeSats to communicate with. And and then we have, Alexandria, the project that they're doing, like all the library of Alexandria burns down. We lost all that information. How can we put it up? And you have storage, storj.io, and them using kind of the MadeSafe protocol and the idea to do this. So this is coming. And we are preparing the back end of Freedom's Phoenix to be able to mirror all of our information there. But the biggest thing is I want to be able to embed video and files and so on that will never go away, and you don't get taken down by the user. Yeah, right. Taken down by Google. And we've had guys like Mox News, his entire channel's taken down because he's highlighting some stuff they don't want him to highlight, even though he's perfectly within the law. But 65,000 videos gone. Luke Radowski, We Are Change. He has it up. Oh, your YouTubes are not monetized, and we're not telling your 200,000 subscribers what you got because you're not doing what we want, and you're in Bilderberger, and gone. Then we had antiwar.com and Google. Nope, you can't make revenue from our AdSense, or word, their advertisements they put on antiwar.com. Gone. So what happens? Google's saying because you got these pictures of Abu Ghraib, which they had 11 years ago that they put them up. You go Google image search and you'll see way worse and more, just every photo that was ever taken up there. It's just, I could see it in Facebook, all these. I'm saying, look, as a seasoned activist, a little gray in the beard, I know what happens. They consolidate, where there's a switch and they push it, or flip it. And I need to have somewhere that we can put video, and whistleblowers can do the WikiLeaks thing, or we can have information that I don't have to worry about. Because some of our most popular articles are things that are certainly against the government, and they want to, shut down access to it. So that's why I was so excited about the ability for us to be the internet ourselves. In fact, in the early 90s, when you had bulletin boards and different kind of nets that were being created, we were like, hey, that's where we thought it was going to go. And then the World Wide Web came on, consolidation of switches. So when I first started doing radio in '03, I remember the entire country of Libya was off the internet. Later we had Egypt and India. A ship drug a anchor and cut off all the fiber optics to the Middle East, and we're like, yeah, right. So we need to bypass this, and technology is doing it, and the software for this is going to be made available. And the first on the scene that was very popular, and they had a very quick fundraising, like 5 hours, for MadeSafe. So I've been patient. I've been waiting decades. I mean, decades with an S. So now that we have something in the works here, I couldn't be happier. I'm just preparing the back end of Freedom's Phoenix to be able to interface with it and use it.
Well, this is where there's a lot of synergy between me and you, my friend, because I'm exactly the same. I mean, I honestly thought, and I think we touched upon this when I came on your show, that I thought in '94 this would be the solution. I thought, here we go, we're gonna, this is gonna be able to connect people together, and we're gonna be able to bypass all the control and the state, legislation that's above us. But it wasn't until probably about the same time as you, the minute I went and heard about MadeSafe, and I went down and had a really long chat with David Irwin and the guys down there, and it was my mind-blowing moment. It was a moment that went, wow, this is it. We can just step away and we can walk away. And what I've always found really inspiring, particularly about your part of the world over here, and this is one of the differences maybe you're aware of or not aware of, but for someone like myself, who's a very freedom-loving person, I have to look towards America. I mean, when I go on to find this information, I'm going to PorkFest. I'm finding people like yourselves, like you say, Luke Rockwell, the Mises Institute. These are all things that are over your side of the world. So I'm very inspired by what you do, and I think this is where we're getting to now. And I think this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because I think we've got a very big synergy, and you understand completely the mind-blowing and the epic and almost the epoch moment of where we are with MadeSafe, because we're about to switch on something that's never been done before. I was talking last night with Paul Rosenberg, and we were talking about it's never been done before in human history. We the people have got the ability to overcome and just walk away from all their stuff. Now, we touched upon it when I came on your show, and since I've been on your show, all the developments that you just mentioned then, well, that's exactly what we're going to be doing Men 99. We're going to have videos up there. We're going to be able to put your video material, anything up at all. And since I was last on your show, I was maybe not 100% about that, but I've gone away with my code, and we've made sure this is all going to happen. So these times are really coming, and I'm really excited because, like I said, I mean, one of the things that's frustrating me about what you've been doing is, like you said, that you've had some of your material take away and stuff. Now, one of the questions I would like to sort of know from your part of the world, because over here, obviously with MadeSafe being, a Scottish kind of company, and in a sense of where they're based and stuff like that, it's it's quite well known in this part of the world. I was going to sort of say to you, how well sort of known and how much do people over in your part of the world understand what's coming with MadeSafe? Are they aware of the Safe network? Is it starting to gain traction in America?
I'm not getting audio.
No, Ernest, we're not. No. No, we seem to have audio problems. Well, Rich, do you want to jump in there and sort of tell me and tell how much traction it's getting in America then?
Yeah, give him a little time. Let me, if you can hear us, just pop on in. Don't worry about interrupting if you get back on right away, Graham. Traction-wise, yeah, very, very, very few people know about MadeSafe. Even, only basically in the crypto community, it seems, are people aware, and also probably people who are in the maybe IT security firms at the higher levels are probably aware of what's about to happen. I know that MadeSafe actually gave a presentation at Google years ago, and so I think it's coming, and I think it'll be welcomed on many levels. I'm sure that it's going to knock out middlemen on some levels, but at the same time, this is giving us a new way it's, bottom line, it's decentralizing the internet. It's not. I was thinking about it earlier today. It's the internet only better. It's not like it's going to give us things in some ways that you can't get now. It's just going to make it a lot easier in some ways. Right now, this safe coin aside, it seems like only the people who are very technical could go in and communicate with each other with some level of competency for privacy. Well, now everyone is going to have that at their fingertips, and it's going to be so much simpler for people like me who aren't technically inclined to communicate with others if necessary in private. So a new world is dawning in that respect. So exciting. Are you still having issues on your? Oh, I think he's just. Now we're having trouble with your video a little bit. But yeah, I noticed.
Try again, Ernest. See if we can hear
you. Graham, do you want to speak? See if we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Perfect.
So I can quit my rambling. Please continue.
Well, here a lot of the yeah, I'm getting a little bit of echo, but as long as you guys can hear. The every effort that I've had to express the need for this, I've been doing for a long time, and we wanted to make sure that people understood that the concept was being put into practice, that people could start to have input on it. Like my webmaster, IT guy, Derek Slopey out of Maine. He just sent me an email today talking about MadeSafe is going to have the ability to do some kind of mesh networking. So he's like, he wanted to make sure that I knew that. And I can see once we free ourselves from the controls and that you can put investment into platforms that use the MadeSafe protocol that we are been for the past year. I was afraid that I wasn't going to be ready in time. So now I'm just now kind of we're ready to do a mirror site on MadeSafe. We want to be the multimedia, here we are, and we're going to go whip some butt. But it's more than that. I was at the Texas Bitcoin Conference in Austin this last year also, and a couple of guys came together and they did the open source version of the Chrome browser, and they created it in such a way that grandma can go to the World Wide Web and also a link on the MadeSafe network, and she doesn't know the difference. And I'm going, yep, here we go. And when you start having your own mesh networks and satellite and within a very short period of time, you say 10 years, which means 5, which means 3. So, it's going to be very quick that you're going to have government just it's like you're driving down the highway and the sunset in your rear view mirror and you notice this little, smart car with police lights on it, whirling, trying to catch up, and they just kind of slip over the horizon and you forget they were ever even there, So we're just going plaid. We're going ludicrous speed, and Elon Musk will help us with that. But we're going ludicrous speed, going plaid past government, and there's no looking back. We're not going to slow down. We just don't care. And that's one thing that governments hate more than anything else, is to be irrelevant. And the only way they can be relevant is, get your attention with mushroom clouds or something. And I'm not paying. We just had Scott Horton from Anti-War Radio, scotthorton.org, on today, for a couple of hours. I had Ron Paul on last Thursday. Yesterday I had Charles Goyette. We're talking about war. And the reason that war is such a big thing all the time is because they're losing the eyeballs and ears of all the people they're trying to program. Amen. And when you get off of their system, which a lot of people didn't know, if they know now, is that the vast majority of the internet, certainly here in the United States, was a Department of Defense thing. This is the government. What do you think was going on? Well, we'll go to Tor. I go, wasn't that a military, U.S. naval intelligence thing? I'm going, come on. You got to think in the future and get off of their systems. Get off, your own solar panel and power your freaking bathroom light or something. Grow a tomato plant. I mean, start to extract yourself from dependency. Once you do, that's why my show is Declare Your Independence. Well, you can't declare your independence if you're dependent on everything. So MadeSafe provides that infrastructure for this, for making the world even that much smaller. And what we have on Freedom's Phoenix is the ability for people to post. I just got an email from a woman today. I really enjoy your site. I get a lot from it. We homeschool, blah, 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 blah. Here's some more resources that we found in places to go. I'm like, hey, you can post it yourself. Here's the link and how you interface with Freedom's Phoenix and do it yourself. When this kind of information and whistleblowing and really good up to the minute, I'm on the smoldering crater of the car bomb and I'm reporting in 3 minutes after, and I'm a kid with an iPhone, in Baghdad, that bypasses all of the talking head with their flash bang and this is what we say happened. When you're able to do that, all of a sudden their power and influence over our lives just goes away. But it requires communication between individuals that's uncensored. Now, that means you're going to have, Ku Klux Klan preschool on the internet or whatever. I mean, yeah, well, don't go there. I mean, it's the freedom that we've been advocating for so long. You can't be afraid of it, and I'm so afraid that, governments just get in our head and convince us that it's a problem. You can't have, like this kind of freedom. People might be free and stuff. I mean, yes, I'm not afraid. So we're looking forward to having, we're keeping tabs on what MadeSafe is doing, how far along you guys have gotten. But we're in a race to try and make sure everything that we want to do, we're ready for when this comes available. I mean, if you guys could give me how far along you are and, what year that we can look forward to doing this, I'm all ears, man. Tell me everything.
Well, I mean, since I last spoke to you, we've gone full steam ahead. The interface is being built as we speak right now, and like I say, I mean, I've just said this very often. I'm no coder. I'm no genius. I don't know anything about coding. I mean, do you know what I mean? I'm just a dreamer, and I have ideas, and I have what I almost demand. And one of the things I've always demanded, it's like exactly like you were saying. I want it to be as easy as possible for the user when they come onto it, and I want everything possible because I think, like I said, I think that's exactly where we're at right now. So since I last spoke to you, we're going to have the ability on N99, particularly with the interface we're building, to put your videos, to put, like I say, any data. And then obviously that's built on top of the whole of the MadeSafe network and the Safe network in particular, which is exactly what you were just saying. And I don't think it can be said enough times that we're about to enter a world where they can't take anything from us anymore. Nobody, not you, not me, not any government, not Obama, nobody. It's gone. We're gone. We're, like you said, we're out of here. We're gone. And I think this is why a bit like David and Nick are, and I think probably about ourselves. And we try to keep as much powder as you can dry because you don't want to go over and excite the world. But it's coming, and it's coming very soon. And I say to people all the time, do as much research as they can and find out as much as they can, because, like you said, Ernest, I mean, to me, that's why I find people like yourself really inspiring, because what I don't know. I mean, you were saying earlier on that we've been in fighting this battle for 20 years, maybe, like you say, decades. And I honestly thought this day would never come. I thought the day would never come where we would be able to have this. And so now we are at that. I'm full steams ahead, and I think it's going to be, like you said, I mean, there's only so much one individual can do, but I mean, I'm greatly inspired by the amount of people that you can reach out to, and it's great to hear that it's starting to make tractions over there, because this isn't just like you said, this isn't just another version of Tor or BitTorrent or anything else. This is a completely new piece of technology. And as I said before, I mean, I think these are the things that I do with N99, which is great, with the ability to anyone to put up any material they want and be rewarded for the actual fact they're putting up as a content provider. But I think these are just steps one. I mean, I think these are almost like first world problems. Making sure that creative people get rewarded for the creations they do, I think, is a very first world problem. I'm looking forward to the day when like you said, we can open it up to whistleblowers, and we can start seeing some of the truths. And then my biggest step is, can we leave this planet? Can we get on? Instead of, as we have done, we've been bogged down by government spaceships and NASA and stuff. And can we invent some spaceships and leave this planet? Because I think that's part of the next step of the human civilization.
So
Yeah, we
I
see
just
you.
wanted to. Oh, good. Yep, I just wanted to point out, I actually can't stay very long, and I'm really happy I was able to meet you, Graham. And one of the things, though, that really pops out at me about what's happening right now is a system for System D is developing quickly, meaning that everybody who lives in the gray and the black markets of society, which is a huge, huge part of society, is now going to have a built-in economy that they can access throughout the world, and nobody can stop it. And it's a beautiful thing, because the ability to trade with people all around the world now, bypassing all controlling systems, is about to crumble. And that's what I see happening, and that's pretty exciting. And I think that governments at the highest level are aware. I think the CIA, NSA, all these people are very aware of what's about to happen. But I think they have the hubris to believe that, well, and maybe they're right to some degree, that they're going to take advantage of it just like everybody else on some level. But the thing is like, we are moving towards a global society, no matter how you slice it. And this is a way for us to really be global society without all of the power brokers deciding who can communicate with who and when and how much they can trade with each other. This is the way a true global economy will grow. And I think MadeSafe is going to be at the center of it. And I think MadeSafe is going to have many copycats, which is amazing and fantastic. If there's 1,000 MadeSafes, all the better. And so that's a beautiful thing. Nobody's here trying to be the top dog. We're all just trying to make a better world, and I love it. Anyway, I got to head off, guys. I was glad to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Cool. So I mean, the thing I was going to sort of say to you, Ernest, I mean, I particularly don't want in this conversation, I don't want to sort of focus on the negative side, because we most people watching this and listening to this in the future will be there because they understand about the how the state works and how the government works and stuff like that. I'm more interested to hear your perspective and what do you think. If I say to you where we're going to be in 5 years' time, what kind of ambitions and drives are you wanting to push through? Because obviously, you right now we're both in the mode of time where we're just trying to fly the flag and tell people what's going and trying to get people away from the government and the system we live in. But if and when we do that, what are some of your next big hopes for human civilization? What do you think? What are the things you think will arise and we're going to gain? Can you hear me? No. Can you hear anything I'm saying there, Ernest? No, we've lost all Hello? Can you hear me? We seem to be having really big issues. This is, well, for people who listen to this is a perfect example of why we try to get MadeSafe out on the out into the general world, because as we're seeing right now, and as we see week on week, these connections that are going on with the this is a perfect example of how the greater system is interfering with free communication. Now, again, I'll just try to, while Ernest is getting his sound back, to as many people, again, head towards Freedom Phoenix. It's a fantastic operation going on over in the States, and you can find them, just go on the web and you'll be able to find as much information as you can on Freedom Phoenix. And like I say, Ernest is an absolute monster for the amount of shows he puts out a day. It's time every day putting shows out. I seem to have lost Ernest. Well, okay, this is very unusual for me, but I'll sit here and talk, and hopefully we'll get Ernest back. Well, while we're here, I like to sort of, I'll maybe give a more in-depth answer to the question that Ernest asked earlier on when he asked him about, what we're doing with N99. Because I don't often talk about it. We're moving at an absolutely ridiculously fast rate, and it's one of the things that I've said before in this podcast. I'm always inspired by people like Dally who's building it, and the crew, the Infinity Algorithm crew who are building it, because it's amazing how much the speed of what this, this new world is being built at. And at the moment, as anybody would know, what we're doing with N99, as I was just saying to Ernest just a minute ago, these are the almost solving big problems that are out there for the people right now, but there only are first world problems. My mission has always been to basically free the creative people from the shackles they're in at the moment, and then we can release the creative people. And I personally have always said this, but by releasing the creative element that's out there at the moment is being restricted by means, as we said before, one of the most basic means for most creative people is the fact that they do not get rewarded for the content they produce, and that has always been stuck in my craw for years and years and years, because it's always been throughout history. It's always been the people who are creative we can mention. I mean, one of the things we were talking a few podcasts ago, I mean, most people now will their viewpoint of the 15th century or any time in previous times in history has always come from the artists and the poets and the writers. We don't remember the names, but we remember the little things that they left us down, along the way. And for the ability for those people, as it has been for a long time in the world we live in right now, where those people are not only given suppressed, they're just not given any reward for what they're doing, and it's an absolute crying shame, because it's not only beyond that, it's the amount of great ideas that have just been left in the desert of the wilderness of the world we live in. There's so many. And this is one of the things that's going to be absolutely, I'm absolutely fascinated, and it's going to be very exciting to see what does come about from this whole safe network being switched on, because we're going to have people popping up from, the Amazon jungle. We're going to have people popping up from Africa, from India, from all over the world, and they're going to have solutions to problems.
You hear me now?
Oh, that's perfect. That's great to have you back, Ernest. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Fine. Can you hear me?
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Perfect.
there we go. I apologize.
That's all right.
No, I just got these new headphones. They're wireless, and I was holding the earphones so I could hear you, and there's buttons on the side I didn't know were there. So no, now I got it figured out, man. It works a lot better now.
Perfect. I was about to ask you, before you cut off, Ernest. I was sort of saying, I don't want to focus on the negatives too much. I'm very intrigued to know, about. We both know about how the system is and about the governments and all that, and that's great. We're just preaching to the choir. We're just sitting here, telling each other stuff we both know. But I'm more interested in, when talking to someone like you, is, you have many. You talk about the freedom a lot, and you're doing a massive flying the flag for this whole movement of freedom. But I was going to say to you, I mean, what would you want in 5 years' time? What do you think is going to happen? I mean, we talk about when we all leave the system, and do you know what I mean? Like I said before, one of my great ambitions is that we can then start to put the money and the effort into basically finding ways to leave this planet. That's one of my great ambitions, that we can start to explore space. Now, what is it, one of the things that you would hope that maybe your children, when they're they're 20, 30, what kind of world would you hope they are going to live in? What future developments?
Well, I'm looking for the freedom to leave. I mean, if they want to. I'm pretty much of the opinion that you're probably going to want to go somewhere nice here on Earth, but that doesn't mean I don't want to, if it gets so oppressive and bad, and I'm over here now. And if your audience were to Google, I hate saying that, search images, search images for Spaceship One, Government Zero, you'll see we've been covering this since June of '04. I mean, even before that. And we went out in the desert when the first private astronaut went into space, and he's standing there holding a sign that we had made. Burt Rutan ran over and grabbed it from me, from the sidelines there when they were parading the space vehicle after they landed, and it said, Spaceship One, Government Zero. And he goes, I got to send a message to the media. And I'm like, peace, man, we got a bunch more. And some of the other signs said, we're going to space and government's not invited. You can't hear the government scream in space. Government is lost in space. I mean, so we were having some fun with it. I understood that the freedom to get away from their tyrannical, we rule you boot on your throat kind of thing. And I don't care if it's the left jack boot or the right jack boot or the jack boot on your throat party. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just the ability to be able to go, sayonara, we're going over here. And that is one thing that they don't like at all. They don't want you to have an escape hatch. They don't want you to be able to leave. Well, we just a couple of weeks ago, we were at PorkFest. I had been covering this for a while too. We met two of the top guys there. We're seasteading, where people are just building their floating homes, and they'll just dock with whomever else they want, and maybe a community pool or something. You know, they just go and hang, and their neighbors start to suck. Well, I just undock, go somewhere else. You know, so this mindset of decentralization is what the big threat is, and it's what has been the steady progression over generations. The democratization of information, even with the printing press and telephone and fax trees and internet. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and it empowers the individual more and more. And as a species, we become much freer, have a lot more opportunity, able to engage in commerce without, you know, being blocked as much here recently because of cryptocurrencies and the internet, and, you know, being able to order anything you want from a 13-year-old kid in Tehran. I mean, you know, this is what I see the world evolving into. And I have 4 children that are 25 to 29. I have my 7th grandchild on the way. So I'm in, man. You know, this is something that we're working on hard. And I wanted to make sure that people understood the importance of things like Made Safe. That, you know, and as I described it, and I'm screaming about it, you know, for a long time, especially after Bitcoin came out and blockchain technology, I'm going, I remember encryption in the early 90s when Phil Zimmerman was arrested and being tried and so on for PGP encryption for email. And I'm going, it's something that can't be stopped. I'm wondering why they would even try. It's just fear and intimidation. Then you have things that desktop manufacturing and 3D printing or milling or that kind of stuff, like Cody Wilson, you know, 3D printing of guns. And I'm going, yeah, the man's not going to like that. And I asked him when he did the Liberator, I go, why did you make it such a clunky looking gun, like a toy? I mean, couldn't you make it a phaser rifle or something, make it cool, you know? He goes, no, I wanted it to be that way. There was a point that we were making, is that you're not going to be able to stop this. So when he did the Ghost Gunner, you go ghostgunner.net, and you'll see he created a milling machine. And what it does is you buy these 80% lowers that you put in that's not serial numbered or anything, and you can legally make your own firearm as long as it's for yourself. You can't transfer it or sell it or anything, but you can make your own firearms that the man doesn't know about. Well, they don't like that either. So what did they do with the first 500 that they sold? They took the profits from that, and they funded their lawsuit against the United States State Department about them trying to stop people from being able to post files on the internet. It's this First Amendment thing. So he was able to take a Second Amendment issue and turn it into a First Amendment issue, which was his plan from the beginning. And you could see it coming. The first pictures of him out of the United Kingdom, it was him in the daily newspaper there, that he had Frederick Bastiat's The Law in one hand and an AK-47 in the other. And I go, oh, my new best friend, okay? So he understood what this was really all about. It's control of the herd. It's vaccines and inoculation of the herd. It's herd healthcare. It's herd thought. It's herd, you know, I'm going, man, they even call it school, you know. I'm going, wow, you know, it's like schooling a fish or something. I'm going, we're just livestock. We're just animals. And as we start to understand that, and we start to, you know, help create these infrastructures for our children, they'll appreciate it. You know, they'll use it. They'll not want to go back, but they won't understand how hard it is for us to get to where we are and how many decades it took for us to have the technology and the understanding of why it's so necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. It's a recurring kind of line on this podcast. We say it all the time, that it's almost inevitable that future generations are going to look back at us and think we were barbarians. I mean, the way our world is right now, you know, we will be viewed as barbarians, and that's why I'm very much like you, and I say to people all the time, and I'm staunch with it. It's like, you've got to make a stand, because history's going to judge which side of which side of the gap you stood on. Did you stand on the side of the barbarians, the people that want to put people, like you say, and treat them like livestock, or were you one of the ones that fight for freedom? And and that's as clear and simple as it can be. Now, I mean, obviously one of the things, I mean, particularly I'm always fascinated looking over to America, because America's always been a bit of a inspiration in the sense of how you were formed and what you become. It's kind of a perfect example of that. Governments never work, because America started off with the ideal of the perfect government, and it hasn't worked. So I mean, one of the things I'm fascinated to ask you, particularly, with what you do, and you have connections with Porkfest, and let alone all the people you have on your show. What do you think I mean, a lot of people, I always try to be balanced, because I have people saying it's never going to happen, and we're just going to fall into totalitarian, and it's just going to be one big, fascist nightmare. And I get the other people say, oh, it's all going to be very easy, and we're just going to all walk away, and we're all going to live in some sort of utopia. And I'm always like, now the balance is somewhere between. The government are going to have some blowback on this. They're going to come back, and they're going to come back somehow. Now, with someone like yourself, who's far more involved in it and flying the flag far more than I have been for a longer time, what do you think the government's going to, what blowback do you think they're going to have? Because it's going to hit them. We are going to walk away, and they're going to, like you say, these networks are going to be switched on, and they're not just going to sit back and let it all happen. So what do you think the blowback will be from the powers to be?
Terrorists, you're all terrorists. Terrorists, white slavery, nuclear bomb making, kind of gun toting terrorists, and that mantra will go on pretty heavy, and that's why they're so concerned about the monetary system. They don't care about the laws. They just want to make sure the laws don't get in the way of them ripping you off. I mean, it's all about the money. So when they have cryptocurrencies coming in, I've been a critic of, I use Bitcoin, and we talk about it a lot, and since like 09, 10, I mean, we've been covering it since it was nothing. I had my first Casasius coins at $4. I mean, I'm back in the day. So I wish I had all the ones I spent, I can tell you that. But the one thing that has been very interesting to me in that is that the concept of it. And now, of course, if they can maintain, enhance, expand their intrusiveness, control over the individual, they, them, those that won't leave us alone, will. And that's what my big mantra on Bitcoin is. I go, all right, how would they do it? Well, it'd be really hard. And they go, oh, you mean like NSA hard? You mean big giant server farms of processing of we rule you hard? You mean like that? And I'm going, they're going to do it. So what happens? Now all of a sudden they're wanting to, just without any input from anybody else, they just want to increase the block size from 1 to 20 megabytes, and they're just going to do it. Hearn is up there saying, him and Andreessen, we don't need you anymore, and we're getting paid by MIT, to do this kind of. I'm going, MIT, isn't that government institution? I'm going, so I could just see this evolving. We had Patrick Byrne on a couple of weeks ago. He's going to come on again and into the first week in August, because I think it's on the 4th of August he's going to release his blockchain technology stock purchasing. The SEC and the government's working with them. They're like, oh yeah, we love you long time now. I'm like, yeah, right. So they're going to try to attempt to stop its use or make it look bad or something. But anything that they do, they're just going to bring more attention to it. And the concerns that people have, are valid. Like, well, you're going to have MateSafe, but you're still using your Cox or Verizon or AT&T account to get to it. So what are they going to do there? Well, one, they got to be able to identify ones and zeros encrypted and split up into whatever, so that's going to be difficult. But we're going to have to go to the next phase, which is well underway already. If your audience was to look up OuterNet, you'll see just how developed this has already gotten. Almost a year ago, that turned on. I remember it was August 11th, my anniversary. They turned on OuterNet. I'm going, yep, here we go. Then you have even Bitcoin wallets like Mycelium is creating mesh networks for them to be able to bypass the system. So, I mean, there's so much of this stuff coming. I gave a presentation in Acapulco at Jeff Berwick's in Acapulco, and it was why I'm so optimistic. And if you just search that, why I'm so optimistic, Ernest Hancock, it'll come up. And was someone in the audience did the video and put it up. And it's just me going through my life of why I can see why I don't have a flying car. It's a freaking government, But there are so many coming. Matter of fact, if you go to freedomsphoenix.com right now, at the top of the page is a new flying car that's developing coming out. Now, there are some already. When I scream about this, everybody sends me emails with links to, aha, here's one, and here's one, and here's one. And I'm going, all right, cool. Well, this Terrafuega, X model is the one that I want, because parks in my garage, and I go out in my driveway and I take off, So I'm like, yep, that's what I want to do. So this is coming. It's just, what will they do to try and distract us or prevent it or justify us not being able to? They'll do anything. I mean, mushroom clouds one after another if those that won't leave us alone have to. And we have to steel ourselves against that. We have to prepare ourselves. We have to, I don't care. We're not afraid. We're not going to go under fear. So they have to. On my show for years, I've been saying, look, you guys don't understand. Golden Gate Bridge, St. Louis Arch, toast. If they have to take out an iconic, like they did the trade centers, I mean, if they have to get the St. Louis Arch in the middle of the country and all of a sudden Durka Jihad and it got dirty bombed or whatever the heck, they'll do it. Why? Because they have to. They won't be ignored. They must be relevant. And as that little car with the lights on passes over the horizon and we just forget about them, all of a sudden you'll see a mushroom cloud coming over there. Well, you just need to drive faster. You need to go to space. You need to get on the ocean. You need to, just run away. Well, running away is not necessarily a physical thing that you have to leave somewhere unless you feel you're in danger, but it's an emotional thing. It's an intellectual thing. It's a revolution between the ears. And that's what we're advocating. That's why the logo here is Freedom's Phoenix, comes from the ashes of, Lady Liberty's torch. I mean, that was the whole point. We understood. And where do you look for that? Moscow, Havana, Detroit. I mean, I'm sure you got some places falling under the crush of tyranny in the United Kingdom. So I'm not that afraid, and I'm not really that concerned. It's happening much faster now that the Levolution had started. I mean, we were very prepared for the Ron Paul Levolution. We knew what was going to happen. We're going, once the generation next, there's always a generation next, once they realize that they're not crazy, that the world is crazy, that government's crazy, that all these guys in charge with shiny ties and anchors sitting up on network news are crazy, well, then they go, oh, well, I don't have to pay attention to them. At first, and I went through this phase, you first think that you got to inform them. Oh, but if they only knew this, they know. They don't care. They're just lying to you. Well, once you realize that, then you don't care, especially since you have alternative media that's available now. So Made Safe provides that foreverism of information to be able to, be available for us to share. There's so much stuff that Freedom's Phoenix has over 200,000 entries. We are just sitting there waiting for the opportunity to make it available to everyone around the world without censorship, because we started in when Arab Spring was going on. We have an Arabic Facebook and an Arabic Twitter. It's called Haria Phoenix. Well, Haria is Arabic for freedom. Well, when they were doing the Arab Spring in Cairo, they're in Tahrir Square, screaming for a change in government, but they gave the impression that they were screaming for Pharaoh number 300 and something. And I'm going, no. This isn't about a new ruler. This is about, ruling yourself. So we took the philosophy of liberty. If you look up philosophy of liberty, it's an animation on YouTube. And we translated that into Arabic. And we printed up 3,000 we started with. And we've done thousands of these DVDs that we did in the PAL format, which is so that it plays in their DVDs. And we shipped them. It cost us hundreds of dollars to do that. I don't know why it was so expensive. But we shipped them to Alexandria, Egypt, where we had a contact there that took them to Tahrir Square, and he distributed them everywhere. All of a sudden, the International Society for Individual Liberty that hosts these videos, they go, what the heck did you do? Next to the United States, all of a sudden, a close second and downloaded this video was Saudi Arabia, followed by Morocco and Egypt. And they go, holy crap. So we got like 2,600 followers on Twitter in a week. And then they shut the account down. And I go, okay, yeah. So we changed the spelling, did it again. But, I'm just going, wow, they really don't like. So what happens? When we did that, we get DDoS attacks from a a web company that tests for security of your site or something, and come to find out they work for the Israeli government. As they're coming around and stopping our infiltration into Arab Spring, because we wanted them to understand it's about self-ownership. The philosophy of liberty is that you own yourself. What happens when you get a 17-year-old kid in Egypt starts to realize, hey man, I own myself? Then what happens? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Well, when I looked at the demographics in Egypt, it was like 80 million people in Egypt. It was like, I think, 20 million in the Nile Delta area there, Cairo. And of the entire country, it was like 33% were under the age of 14. I'm going, holy crap, you cannot get away from that demographic. So you had, I think it was over half, 60% or something was 23 or younger. So I'm going, and they were hungry. So I'm going, there is no fixing, there is no stopping what's going to happen. All we had to do was try and inject the liberty infection into the bone marrow of international politics, for which there is no cure. Well, made safe and things like that allow for that. This is, just WikiLeaks was a really good example. Early on, when they started posting a lot of whistleblower stuff, they were one of the few, if only site that I remember, that they were able to encrypt everything and they couldn't stop them. Of course, they'd go shut down their servers and arrest people and whatever, anything they could do. You can't use your credit cards, all this stuff. Well, then what happens? All of a sudden, you get cryptocurrencies. Now, this is one thing that's interesting for SafeCoin. Eric Voorhees is a big Bitcoin entrepreneur that done a lot of things. Well, his latest effort is called Shape Shift, and it's an exchange out of Switzerland. Well, what happened? He goes, yeah, I need them to do Bitcoin. Get your anal probe from Circle and Coinbase and give up your DNA sample or whatever to get your ETFs and your retirement of your IRA, 401k, and now to take the tax hit, get out, go into the Bitcoin, and then, they got that all tracked. But then you go over to Shapeshift and you start trading with other coins like SafeCoin. You go to Darkcoin, Litecoin, this coin, and it tumbles around and it's gone now. Okay, it was here a minute ago, and now this guy's like free. So these are the kind of things, and they got a ruling from the Swiss government saying as long as you're not dealing in fiat, you're not exchanging to any kind of a government paper currency, and you're just going between these different alternative currencies, peace, we don't care. Have fun. Well, that's going to change, I'm sure, and I'm sure Eric knows that. But this is an opportunity with SAFE being able to not only be able to have access to information that can't be censored or taken down, but by participating in it, you're rewarded. So it's like the early days of Bitcoin. I'm sitting here, just leaning forward on the edge of my chair, waiting for the ability to be able to turn on the 50 gazillion computers I have with, the safe protocol on there, minding me some SafeCoin. Well, then what am I going to do with it? I don't know. I just want to. Why? Because it represents the freedom that we've been screaming for so long. So that's why I was so excited, not just about David and Nick and Made Safe. I was excited for them. When we went to the New York Bitcoin conference a year and a half ago, we were talking, they were, really getting a lot of attention, and I'm going, I don't think you guys understand what's going to happen. This is going to go way faster than you guys think. Well, then boom, it's done in the morning, and I'm like, yeah, well, who's your best friend now? Because, I have been such a supporter of this because I understood the power. So I'm pretty optimistic about the future. That doesn't mean the bad guys aren't going to go, away quietly. I mean, they're not going to go quietly into that good night. They're going to rage against our machine. I can be certain of that. But how? You got to be vapor. You got to be, smoke. You got to be, and the biggest thing is not caring what they say. I was at the Texas Bitcoin conference in March, and Paul Snow, that puts it on, had me the opening thing on Sunday morning. He and I are just chatting. And as we're talking, we're just, talking about various different things and, how things are going. And I gave my impression about, things like MadeSafe, and Lazuz is a competitor with Uber that doesn't use servers. It's just your phone and Bitcoin, and they can't stop it. They can't find it. They can't kick in the door anywhere. They can't ban anything. They can't. I don't know what the heck they're going to do. So I'm going, look, this, if it doesn't survive government, if it can't just ignore them, then it's the wrong tech. So then they go to an attorney that was on the panel, and they ask him, well, what do you think? I go, I don't care what he thinks. If I have to care what a congressman or an attorney thinks about this kind of opportunity to be free, if I have to care, then it's the wrong tech. It needs to be able to survive any kind of controls or censorship. So they're going to have to go after individuals. They're going to have to go after you. They're going to look at made safe protocol on computers the same as kiddie porn or something. They're going to say the fact that you even have the capacity to be free and uncensored means you're a bad guy. That's the mantra that they're going to start trying to do. You're all terrorists. But it's not going to make any difference when, one, they can't tell, and there's 50 gazillion people doing it. They just keep getting smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror, slip over the horizon. We forgot they were ever even there.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting you bring up shapeshift, Ernest, because obviously I'm working on a daily basis with the guys down at San Francisco who are building N99, and I get to see the app that they're actually building. It's almost like it's the Second Life, and they've got your avatars, and it was just a few weeks ago that shapeshift to put himself into the safe exchange that he's already built. So already there, bang, boom, it's there. There's already a way, like you said, that you can earn your safe coin and transfer that into anything else, and you don't have to go through your card machine or anything else. In fact, you don't have to go anywhere near fiat money. And it was like, boom, no, another one done, another one done. And this is what really excites me. One of the things that has really been inspiring from the very first time I spoke to David, and let alone when I talked to Daniel DeBeck down in, who's building what we're building, is basically you can think of something, it can be built. And that's what's really exciting me, because like I said, I'm building N99, which is great, and it's brilliant, and it's been so inspiring to me that I'm being overwhelmed by creative people who just want to step away from it all, who are maybe not politically activists. They're not the ones out there marching and flying the flags, but man, as you said, they all feel it and they all get it. And do you know what really inspires me, and I think it's one of the great has kept me going for, like you said, for definitely, man, we are old, my brother. For decades. What's kept me going for decades is that for all the state education they get, teachers get hold of them for 8 hours, 9 hours a day until they're 18, 19. You know what I mean? But these kids, they all instinctively know the freedom, and all they're looking for is somewhere where they can express themselves and have that freedom, and it's coming. And I'm like you, and there's not many people like you, and you're the only other person I've really met, Ernest, who's probably on the same level as me of understanding as I think this is going to change the world, not in 10 years, not in 5 years. This is going to change the world overnight. And it's going to be, and then by the time they realize, I think it's going to be too late, because like you said, by the time you've got, I don't know, say 1 million users, say 2 million users, whatever it is, they can't get us, like you said, with vapor. And then it's going to be great, because you're going to see something that, you see little bits of it, in what you're doing, you see bits of it in the New Hampshire projects, and you see little things. I've seen many of them. I spoke to many people around the world who are doing decentralized ideas. But at the moment, under this great big wave and cloud of fiat money, but the minute it switched on, bang. And that was like I said, the minute I heard that Shapeshift were involved in the SafeX, I was like, boom, that's it. That's another great big step forward, because it's like you said, it's the ability to use and to express your freedom without going through any card machines or going down to your local shop and having to sort of like put your numbers and details in. And this is big move, big things forward. I mean, especially over your side of the world. I mean, because it's like, I've always been a bit iffy about Bitcoin, because the minute I heard, and I did my own research in Bitcoin, the minute I realized that right down at the very bottom level, it's got bugs and it's got, all sorts of problems at the very deep level, that even Andreas Andropoulos says actually if you go into it, it's really dodgy at the bottom end. But this is a completely different paradigm, and this is the one that's going to be able to, like you said, move us all away. So I think it's kind of, I think, really inspiring. I can't really kind of let you go without sort of talking about your connections with, Porkfest and New Hampshire, because I'm often asked about it a lot over here, because you've got to bear in mind we're thousands of miles away, and we get to see things out on YouTube or research and stuff like that. So where did your sort of connections with New Hampshire projects and how's it going? Because you just come back literally from Porkfest. I mean, what's the latest updates on how that's all going?
When we were doing our Freedom Summits, the Free State Project was a concept by a kid that was a Yale graduate that came up with the idea that if you have enough people move to a small state, that you could get involved in politics, and it was freedom oriented already, and you had they were describing New Hampshire. They really wanted it to be New Hampshire, and international border, so it borders with Canada. It has access to the ocean. I mean, there's a lot of criteria. Well, in the West, we were like, Wyoming or Arizona or Colorado or New Mexico or something, because the mindset here is a lot different. It's a lot better. And Arizona has an international border, and so I'm just going. They picked New Hampshire. I go, you mean that state right next to Massachusetts? That one, So I'm going. But they're live free or die state, and but people in Arizona, it's like, hey man, there's snow there, But a lot of people wanted it to be New Hampshire. They got most of the people voted. They came to our Freedom Summits and put out a table, and they talked about it. And I remember when I first started doing radio in February of '03 here in morning show in Phoenix, and they came on and talked about it. And when they selected New Hampshire, they had announced it the next day on our show. I mean, I've been closely involved. The next Freedom Summit that we did, the only Freedom Summit that we've ever done outside of Arizona, was in Manchester, New Hampshire, to kind of help bring attention to their project. So that's how I know these guys, because I just knew them. There are other libertarians. And I understood what they were trying to do, but I'm not a big, political guy. But, I'm really glad that a lot of the people there, it's a diverse group of people, and you have people like Carla Garrick, that is the chairman of the Free State Project there, or Pork Fest, and this has been a very interesting experiment for everyone, because they have been able to change laws and get things done. But I don't believe it's from politics as much as it is from the culture, from just changing minds, freeing minds. So I'm not really concerned about changing the minds of politicians. They'll change their mind as soon as they see the mind of all their constituents have been changed. They're not leaders, they're followers. And in a small state like New Hampshire, there's the ability to do that. And you have some really quality people that I support there. But I'm, I go to Pork Fest because it's like like a salmon run. I mean, you're just drawn there. You never plan to go. I just wind up going anyway. And it's just a lot of fun, and you get to experience the freedom that you're advocating for. There are almost no rules other than being courteous to the owners there and the people, but other than that, you pretty much do whatever you want, and we do. We have a lot of fun. In fact, we had the Metalith. Derek Slopey had bought, we have a thing called the Money Lith. It's a big candy machine that we wrapped and we were selling silver out of, and we call it the Money Lith, like the 2001 Space Odyssey. You go up, oh, this big monolith thing. And he bought another one very similar to it, and we logoed it and wrapped it and everything, and Robertson Roberts, Silver and Gold Brokerage out of Pensacola, and us helped sponsored it, and LRN and so on. And we got this machine that took Bitcoin, dispensed fiat money, took fiat, gave you Bitcoin, or you could buy things out of it. We had everything from tampons to bullets and silver and flashlights. I mean, any and everything that we could think of. It was called the Metalith. All the things for all the money, So the point that we were making is that these kinds of vending machines, and we put an entire Bitcoin node in it. Derek Slopey set this up so that, you couldn't do double spending and all other kinds of problems that he knew might be out there. And it worked great. We had, I don't know, a couple of $1,000s worth of merchandise went out of there. And we just went to the dollar store and bought all kinds of stuff, nail clippers and tweezers and all kinds of stuff. And then we put silver and bullets and all kinds. So CNN came and did a deal. If you do CNN Pork Fest, you'll see Being Moody or something. They had a special that they do. They came up there, and it was a good 8-minute piece, and they featured that and the slot machine. Vote for nobody. Vote for, vote for nobody is, no, everybody can play, nobody wins kind of thing, so you're putting in quarters, but you're just giving it to them. So, I mean, there's some winners, but of course they go back and put the money back in. So there was hundreds of dollars made on that just from them trying to advocate that you're just wasting your time voting. It's a cultural thing. And that's one thing CNN was all up about, and they came and interviewed me too. And they were wondering who we're going to support, who we're going to vote for. And they found out I was, the Ron Paul Levolution logo guy. Well, of course you're going to be for Rand. And I'm going, nah, I think we're done. And that was pretty much the mantra they got from everyone is that it wasn't a political solution. So that upset them. They didn't like that. And they saw all these little kids running around being entrepreneurs and selling stuff and cleaning up campgrounds and walking dogs and everything. I go, see, they're building the next generation that are just see government and even you, frankly, the media as irrelevant. Well, they didn't like that, so I don't care, but it was a good piece. CNN
No.
Porkfest, you'll see it.
So again, the people who kind of who listen to you or know anything about this, you're an astounding human individual there, Ernest, because of nothing else, you put so much time and effort, and you're just full of energy all the time. So the question I have to ask you is, what do you do when you're not doing Freedom Phoenix? Do you go fishing? Are you a runner? Do you cycle? What does Ernest Hancock do when he's not on the radio, man?
I have to schedule time to go to the gym at least 2-3 times a week. I eat well. I juice and and do a thing called Budwig, and so I try, but I'm not on a diet or anything, obviously. But I just want to make sure I get some good stuff in, so I have the energy to go do anything. A lot of times, this is so overwhelming. You just I get a chance to just sit down. Well, I do my life in such a way that we try and be an inspiration to our kids and grandkids. So we have aquaponics. We have a dome out here. I wonder if the switcher, I think I can show you a picture of it. What happens is we do a lot of chickens, and we have like a little mini farm here and a couple of acres, and we take care of ourselves. But I tell you, it's all centered around the raising of our grandchildren. So every Monday we'll usually do reruns, and all our grandkids come over here, and it's Grandma and Grandpa Day. So we just play and show them all the stuff that we're working on, and they ask any question. There's a video on the internet about whatever they're talking about. We explain everything. So it's always school all the time. So a lot of my extra time is with friends, or we'll have parties like this Saturday. I had a big pool party here, and so we just try and create a community of friends and neighbors and families. And that's why I like to see things like, here you might be able to see it. Yeah. Okay, so this is, a view of our side yard, and that foliage you see on the left side is a dome. Let's see, the light, you can't really, that's the inside of the dome where we have our sink there and so on, and we do all our aquaponics. So we have a lot of fun, doing this stuff. But I'm very encouraged by how interested our grandchildren are. My oldest is not even 6 yet, and they love this stuff that we're doing. They help feed the fish and the chickens, and they make sure they understand the growing, and they understand a lot. And then when my granddaughter at 5 years old comes up to me and says, "How do computers work?" And I knew what she meant, because she knows how it works. She just goes, "No, how do they work?" You see some of the electronics and boards. Well, how does that work? I'm going, "Oh, that's a good question. Let's find out." So when I was at Porkfest, I was asking the people, Brett Venat from School Sucks podcast. He's a teacher that just goes, "Hey, man, school sucks, man." So he has his own podcast and such. And I was asking during his presentation, does anybody know where I can get this kind of information? My 5-year-olds are starting to kick my ass on, questions about stuff that I don't, really have answered. And this one person came up and he goes, "Yeah, it's this website, and it's called tellmelikeI'm5yearold.com." So I'm going, that's my new favorite website. So we, have all this information that's available, that if you're sending kids to government schools, you're guilty of child abuse. Of course, they'll spin it the other way and say, well, you're not sending them to government schools, and you're not getting herd inoculation, and you're not putting chemicals in them, you're not feeding the school lunch Michelle Obama says they should have, and you're not, I'm going, wow, how messed up world do we have when they're saying you're taking them home and you're taking care of them and they're your children, and somehow you're guilty of abuse compared to what the government schools do. So all of this is just opinion, and that's what I've been, lately making a big deal out of this. I'm going, look, the future is all about opinion. It's not about, who voted for whom, that doesn't matter. It's just public opinion. All that other stuff follows from that. It's a culture shift, and we're seeing it. Government sees it, but they see it like 2 years late. And when they want to come after you or try to control it or turn the dial. If they got a number, well, a certain percentage of people don't, whatever their number they come up with, well, you know they're advocating for the power to turn that number down or up or flip it off or something. You know, we're going to push the button and fix the number. So whenever you hear government numbers, man, run away. You know, they're going to try and control you. So I'm thinking that the battle that they're trying to win, they're trying to, you know, who are the bad guys, and those that won't let us surveil them are the bad guys because they got something to hide. You know, they're fighting a war that we're not even there anymore. We're on. Not only are we willing to not let them see what we're doing, we're creating the technology to do it. So
Amen.
by the time they're complaining about it, everybody's already wanting and using it. And so I'm not that worried, but they are dangerous. You know, and who are they? You know, everybody always asks you, especially on radio, they go, they, who are they, you conspiracists, who are they? And I go, let me tell you who they are. It's real simple. There are those that just want to be left alone, and there are those that just won't leave them alone. If you look at the world that way, it's a lot simpler. So I'm going, look, if they won't leave you alone, bad guys. That's it. Well, they should. They know better. They're going to go, okay, well, if you want to do what they want to do, fine. But I tell you one thing, government's not friendly advice. They're not coming in, you know, you should this and it'd be nice if. No, there's a gun to your head, okay? And you have to, and you got to pay for whatever plan they got for you, and I'm just want to have my own plan. And that was the promise that they made, and that's why my show is Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock. Because the Declaration of Independence, which preceded the Constitution by a decade, you know, the Declaration of Independence was very clear. The purpose of any governments that man would create is to protect the natural rights of the individual. If it doesn't do that, it's time to alter or abolish. I mean, that's what it says. So I'm going, you know, well, how hard is that to understand? If they're not protecting my individual rights, which is what? For me to have my own plan. You run for office. I've been many times. I'll have, you know, for Congress or U.S. Senate. Hell, I ran against McCain for U.S. Senate, and they're always in the forums and everything. They'll sit there and say, "Well, I got a plan, and my plan's, you know, this, and I got the Republican plan." Democrats will say, "Well, my plan's better than his plan. His plan sucks." And they go to the Libertarian and go, "What's your plan?" I don't know. For you to have your own plan? Well, that's no plan. You got to tell us what to do, you know. And I'm going, did it ever occur to you that the whole promise of America, you know, which is the whole, you know, mythos behind why we had the revolution and everything, was to get out from under someone else's plan? You know, not for, you know, another guy from Washington to tell me what to do. If they were there, and the promise was that they were going to protect me from all these other enemies of the Constitution. All these foreign and domestic enemies are going to tell me what to do. They're going to protect my right and my ability to have my own plan. And when they're the ones that are imposing their plan on me, and oh, by the way, I got to pay for it, and they're going to indebt my grandkids for it forever and always, and try to come off as the good guys. When they did the TARP in 2008, when the economy took a dump, what happened was they had this big giant trillions of dollars of money that they bailed out the banks with and then put us on the hook for it. Well, that's the same thing they're doing with Greece. Well, how is it that my grandchildren's debt? When they did that, my first grandchild was in my daughter-in-law's womb, you know, and my daughter-in-law, my daughter-in-law, and my daughter-in-law had this beautiful baby inside. We were all looking forward to our first grandchild, and already, boom, what do? You got another $40,000 you owe us. Got it on you? You know, so what are they going to do? They add the interest, and she's a debt slave. So I'm going, God, you get the idea that it's not her debt. So we had big billboards. You look it up and do an image search on "It's Not My Debt," and you'll see the billboards, 14 by 48 freeway billboards all over the valley. 9 locations we had. "It's Not My Debt," and it showed 3 babies with barcodes on their butt being scanned over a grocery scanner, you know. And the other one was a baby in the womb, a fetus, and they're saying, "Hey, it's not my debt." I'm like, how can you say that it's this next generation's debt? You know, you can't. And it's all going to be repudiated and abandoned, and sooner or later it's just all going to fall. But they want to try and re-up the deal. They're going to refi America. They want to have another Constitution Convention. They want you to agree to, you know, salute the flag or something, you know. And I'm going, no, it's a revolution between the ears. So I don't get all upset. I don't try. And you never saw in the Ron Paul revolution, it never said vote Ron Paul. It was about how long could we keep him up on that podium. and he was willing to do it again in 12. I go, cool. We'll see how long we can keep him up on that podium then, too. So it was how many minds we could free, not votes we could get. I didn't care.
Exactly. I mean, this is one of the things that, particularly about why I've particularly on this podcast, and we've done it for N99. I've gone particularly, and I've gone focused particularly on the creative people, because at the moment these creative people are being, they've got all the ideas and they're being suppressed. But you know what always gets me, Ernest, is just when you're just talking about your grandkids, then you get to a really basic question, which I think all human beings have to ask themselves when it comes down to it. It's like, what are we on this planet for? Are we on this planet to advance the human species, or are we just here just to be, like you say, wage slaves, debt slaves,
Livestock.
Exactly, livestock for them. And it's not. When you, and I was the same. When I remember I had my first child, I looked at him and thought, I want him to be the full expression of what he can be as a person. And you know what's really great about what I'm saying is that that's why I try to push and tell everyone about N99 and the Safe Network and stuff, because it's an opportunity for people who are creative to expand themselves and be rewarded. Because do you know the great thing out there, Ernest, and this is one of the great things. It's an old Bill Hicks joke. It's not my line, but when it comes down to it, we've got the best music. And that's one of the things I love when I came on your show. It was the first time I'd heard Back in the Saddle for years. I was like, yeah, exactly. So we're going to be, the government systems are going to have, all your Mariah Careys and all that bollocks, but we're going to have the decent music. So, I mean, kind of like, it has to be sort of asked, Ernest, because again, it was unusual to hear anything by Aerosmith. So is that something is that a love of music you got, for that? Is it, or you have a very wide potato, because you play quite a lot of rock tunes on, so is that a big love of yours? You love the rock music and guitar music?
Yeah, because I can. I mean, when I first started doing radio, we got the gig and hired for doing radio here, and it was a morning show, a 2-hour morning show, 7 to 9, and I go, wow. Well, I've got to produce my own rejoiners and everything, and I went and bought some of because I had everything in cassette tapes and so on from back in the day. So this is 03. Well, CDs were coming out. And I go, yeah, okay, I'm ready to get some good CDs. And so I started taking pieces out and putting it up and going, yeah, you're having a good time. The problem is that when you do YouTube, we use Vimeo now, because when you do YouTube, what do? Oh, I'm sorry, that's a copyright violation. You use 10 seconds of Led Zeppelin. You're not allowed, And I'm going, screw you, I am so out of here. So this is another reason why I want Made Safe. I don't give a crap what I use. You don't want me to hear and share something, well, don't put it on the internet. I mean, so I'm not an IP guy. I give you a good example. The Revolution logo, Russell Brand, wants like trademark it or something, right? So I had Ron Paul on Thursday, and he goes, yeah, I wanted to use that more, but I can't now because everybody's giving me a hard time because I didn't copyright it. And I refused to from the beginning. It was a year went by before people even knew I was the one that created it. I didn't make a big deal out of it. I go, no, I wanted it to permeate society and be like the peace symbol. Nobody owns it. It's ubiquitous. It means what it means. And so when Russell Brand tries to, communize it or whatever he's going to do with it, it's not going to work out well for him. And I guarantee he isn't going to stop me from doing whatever I want. Hell, I'll pay him to sue me. I mean, come on, man, make my day. Come on, So it's been, it's fun to see what they try and do with it. And obviously, he's rallying, railing against the state. The government's bad. So what does he do? Well, him and his lawyers go out and they're going to trademark a Revolution logo and have the state enforce it. I'm going, yeah, how'd that work out for you? So I don't care. Maybe they want to do a line of clothes or something and didn't want me suing them or something like that. And I don't care. Fine. It's going to mean what it means. But I just look at intellectual property as it's just a creation of the state. And it's always a surprise. Well, how are you going to get innovation unless people will get rewarded? I go, it stifles innovation. Mm-hmm. Why do you think I don't have my flying car? I'm going, I'm so not doing this. So that's the mindset that I have on music, and so I like what I like, and I'm probably going to be adding some more. We're doing a lot of things here that we're going to be syndicating more and so on. I'll be adding some, but one of the conditions that I have, anybody wants me to do anything, look, I'm not going to be micromanaged and programmed by the government. Exactly. I'm not going to do it. Well, then you're not going to be able to. I go, that's fine. MadeSafe's coming.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, look, Ernest, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure. I know that your time constraints are short and stuff like this, so it's been an absolute Well, I've really it's been absolutely insightful conversation, and you know, my only ask I say to you, and it was something that we both came across when I came on your show, is let people know about what's coming, because, you know, what I mean, the N99 is just one solution, and it's like I said, it's a solution for creative people, but there's going to be many more others, and all we can do is just let people know, and I say what I say because I can only it's reaching out, and the more people, like I've learned in this since we're doing this, more people that hear about it, the more overwhelmed I became, and I'm sure it's a huger scale of because it's all about letting people know, and you know that's all we can do. And I'm sure
Well,
that. I mean, I'll have to come back on your show maybe in a few weeks' time when we're close to launch with what we're doing, and we
yeah,
can,
when
you
you
know,
got something you want to share with us, man, I'm all over it. I just, come on down. Here, I don't know if you can see it, the Not My Debt
yeah,
billboards that we had. That's them. I mean, it's just, oh, we're going to get some. And it's all about just, being persuasive. It's about, telling people what they already know and just having somebody help them express it or give them the opportunity to express it. Made Safe is that platform for you to express it. Now, there's going to be bad stuff out there. There's no getting around it. I mean, people are going to be doing, okay, I got in with this. You'll like this. I'm on the show and I'm going, I know there's no freedom on the internet and YouTube because there isn't a channel for catapults. I mean, cats being pulted, okay? I'm going, that there would be catapult channel if there was a free internet, because the internet's all about cats, right? So I go, you look up catapult. Well, sure enough, there is this little plastic toy that it's shooting little plastic cats at a target. It's the closest you get. So while I'm doing this, going, yeah, where's the catapults and so on? Yeah, catapulting in the cactuses. I'm just being mean. Well, one of our friends was here, and a little baby kitten was in a cactus plant out here that got stuck up in, a stray cat was in there, a little kitten, and brings it in, and I'm like, okay. So I'm holding it up here. I go, oh, here's a little cat. I guess we won't catapult him. That wasn't my advocacy. So that was the divine intervention of like, yeah, really, Ernie, what are you gonna do? You got a cat here. So I'm just going. That wasn't the point. The point that I'm making is that you're going to have to put up with this kind of freedom. There's going to be some strange things up there, but there are already strange things. They are out there. They are doing it, and they're using that as the excuse for the government to come after people they don't like. It's just people with these kinds of tendencies are just low-hanging fruit, and it just creates the atmosphere by which they're coming after you and me and your future and our kids and our grandkids. So that's why I'm such an advocate for what you're doing. And as soon as you have news and you got something coming up, boom, man, it's a straight conduit onto my show. I want to pimp it for you.
That's perfect. Well, just before we go, Ernest, I mean, let's give people a heads up where they can find you, and if they want to reach out to you, where's the best place to get to you?
Now, the best thing, you go to freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com. My email is publisher@freedomsphoenix.com. And declare your independence with Ernest Hancock, is of course the show, but you just Google Ernest Hancock or Freedom's Phoenix, and I hate saying Google, search, any other way. You do that and you'll go ahead and you'll find us. But, join the discussion, get the free email dispatch. We send out like 50 headlines a day that come out in one dispatch, and then in the afternoon we have a morning and an afternoon version, and you're not missing much. You're not missing a lot on education and politics and war and technology and space travel. We cover a wide, swath, a big radar screen of stuff, and the reason is because it's cool, because I like it, and anything that's of interest, I give not just myself the ability to be able to share with people, but everybody gets to have the same power that I do to share with everyone. So come check us out at freedomsphoenix.com.
Well, yeah, and I'd just like to say, this is just a personal, thank from the bottom of my heart. I want to say, big thanks to you personally, Ernest, because you're doing a lot. And I know that, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, because that's not what it's about. But, you are very inspiring, and you just keep doing what you're doing, because, I know it's like at times we put our heads down and we plow away and we don't realize the effect that we're having on other people. Well, I speak to you as someone that you've had a great effect on me, and it's spread all over here to the Highlands of Scotland. So you keep doing what you're doing. And like I say, anybody out there, and just generally, you just go and phone, because you're a very inspiring man, and you're going to be one of them people, as we were saying earlier on the podcast, when the judgment comes down on which side of history you're going to be on. Well, there's going to be a leading light with Ernest Hancock on it, and it should be, because you're not doing it for ego, and you're not doing it. I know that for a fact. You're not doing it for a statue. You're doing it for freedom. And that's the best thing we can ever do. So I say to you, you just keep inspiring, and you keep plugging away, because it is making a difference. Trust me. That's speaking from someone from the island. So all power to you, my friend. And like I said to you before, I look forward to the day when we all, I don't know, there's going to come a time in the near future, and I'm sure you'll be 100% agree with me, that we're going to have a massive, almost a party, and go, we've won, we've done it. We've, all these decades that we've been doing it. And I look forward to that day, whether it's over your part of the world, or whether it's up in the Highlands of Scotland over with me, David, Irwin and Nick and all that. It's coming, and I look forward to it. And I will definitely be back on your show. And, well, like I say, thanks again for your time you give me tonight. And, we definitely speak soon, eh? But from this edition
it's...
Go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're going to... I wanted to encourage the people to, just declare your independence. I mean, it's really simple. I just declared my independence. I didn't need a government form.
Exactly.
Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure talking to you again, Tim. I appreciate it.
No, that's perfect, man. And we'll speak soon. But thank you very much. And from this edition of Life is People, people.